call raised. The court now is in session. His Honor, Yo Wistiam Hussein.
The court may be seated.
This is a medical negligence suit filed by plaintiff against the defendant. The plaintiff reads of summons and statement of claim for an alleged medical negligence or default. Today, the lawyer side by plaintiff represented by Ms. Nur Izzati and counsel side by defendant by Mr. Lukman Hakim. The trial begins.
On 5th April 2001, the plaintiff was given a blood transfusion by a public officer which resulted to HIV positive. The plaintiff then filed an action against the defendant 36 months from the date of giving blood transfusion. Your Excellency, may it please this court, I would like to ask your permission to ask question to the witness.
Yes, proceed.
Much obliged.
Please stand. Raise your right hand. Do you promise that all the information you shall give in the case before this court shall be true, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes, I do. Your Excellency, the witness is ready to be examined.
Counsel, you may begin.
Can you introduce your name and also the result you got after diagnosing the plaintiff?
My name is Dr. Kamal. I am responsible for diagnosing Kavita, the plaintiff. One day, she came to the hospital and asked for a full medical checkup. And I did a full medical checkup on her. And after a few days, the result came out and she is HIV positive.
So, what was her reaction and can you describe it to us and when she was told that she is HIV positive?
She is surprised and confused, not knowing what caused her death. She also asked me repeatedly whether the result is wrong.
Did you ask anything to her regarding the result and assist her confusion?
Yes, I did. I asked her whether she lived in a social lifestyle or even had an unprotected sexual interaction, but she didn't say anything about it and she denied it.
Anything more?
That's all.
That is all from me, Your Excellency. Nothing further.
From the defendant's side, do we have any witness to be presented to the court?
Yes, Your Excellency.
You may proceed, counsel.
I would like to call upon Ms. Kavita to the witness section.
Please stand. Raise your right hand. Do you promise that all the information you shall give in the case before this court shall be true, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Your Excellency, the plaintiff is ready to be examined.
Counsel, you may begin.
Can you tell us specifically who is the public officer assisted you on that day for the blood transfusion?
No, I can't, because I don't know who he is, but I can assure you that he is one of the public officers.
You are being diagnosed on 5th April 2001. Is it true?
Yes, it is true.
Did you file an action against the defendant 36 months from the date of giving blood transfusion?
No, I didn't. I filed an action against the defendant only on 6 July 2012.
You already did the HIV test. What was the result?
Yes, I did, and it was HIV positive. I believe that I suffered this HIV from the blood transfusion.
May it please this court. The plaintiff had filed an action against the defendant on 6 July 2001. That is around 36 months. Now, we know HIV can also be infected through unhealthy sexual intercourses or sharing contaminated needles such as tattoo or drugs other than blood transfusions. So, from the day you had the blood transfusion to the day that you were diagnosed with positive HIV, Have you ever got yourself into those conditions I have mentioned earlier?
Of course not. I am a healthy person, which means I only practice healthy lifestyle. And the only blood contact I had between that times was the blood transfusion by the public officer.
Can you provide any ground to show that the blood transfusion is the cause for your HIV positive?
No, but yeah, there must be something to do with the blood transfusion session. As I told you before, I am a healthy person.
Can you briefly explain to us what your healthy lifestyle is?
Well, for sure, I will never drag myself into any conditions that can lead to HIV, obviously, but I jog daily, I eat healthy food, and I go out with healthy friends.
Did you experience any of the HIV symptoms before you are diagnosed with HIV?
Yes, and some of them are fatigue, and I had flu.
Your Excellency, a validity time for her to file an action against the defendant is only 36 months from the day she had blood transfusion, provided in Section 2, Clause A of Public Authorities Protection Act 1948. But the plaintiff filed her action against the defendant exceeding the provided time. She had her blood transfusion by the public officer on 5th April 2001, and afterwards filed her action against the defendant on 6 July 2012. However, based on accounting, 36 months will expire on 4th April 2012. Why did you file an action against the defendant on 6 July 2012?
Because I was just being diagnosed with positive HIV. I would file my action in the provided time if I had known earlier.
Are you married? Do you live by yourself or with your spouse?
I am not married and I live with my beloved parents.
Particularly, based on Section 5 and 6 of the Government Proceeding Act 1956, it requires the plaintiff to name the public officer in the action against the government. However, you file your action against the government but failed to provide who was the exact public officer for an alleged medical negligence or default. Can you recall the exact face of the public officer and point him out?
I think.
Do you think or you can be sure?
I am not sure because it has been such a very long time since that day and I only saw him once on that particular day.
With great respect, I thought it might have been in your lordship's mind to grant the defendant to strike up the application made by the plaintiff.
Does the plaintiff counsel wish to cross-examine the witness?
No, Your Excellency, we do not.
The court would like to excuse for a moment in order to give judgment. Let me clarify my decision. The plaintiff's writ of summons and statement of claim were fatally flawed and rendered defective as the said pleadings failed to name or join the public officer who was responsible for an alleged medical negligence or default. Also, from Section 5 of the Government Proceeding Act 1956, the defendant would only be vicariously liable for any wrongful act done or any neglect or default committed by of any public officer to the same extent as that of a principal for its agent. Under Section 6, Clause 1 of the Act, the defendant could not be sued by virtue of Section 5 unless such proceedings for damages would have lain or could be commenced against such public officer personally. Applying Section 5 and 6, Clause 1 of the Act, the plaintiffs could only file proceedings against the defendant if the public officer, who could be personally liable for the alleged tort, was named as a defendant in the action. Therefore, the limitation period to file the action would be 36 months after the ceasing of the continuance of injury or damage caused by the act, neglect or default complained of. The court gave the benefit of the doubt to the plaintiffs. I allowed the defendant's application to strike out the plaintiff's claim on the ground that it disclosed no reasonable cause of action against the defendant on the ground that it is otherwise an abuse of the process of the court. This is a plain and obvious case for striking out the plaintiff's claim. There is no necessity for the action to go for full trial. The plaintiffs are still continuing to suffer from the symptoms of the HIV or the injury or damage caused by the blood transfusion administered by the public officer of the defendant. Both plaintiffs are now still HIV positive. Therefore, the injury or damage suffered by both plaintiffs have not ceased, which means the limitation period of 36 months after the accusation of the wrongful act neglect, or default has not even started to run yet.